6 parallel trackways crossed one muddy surface in ancient China. The footprints ran in the same direction, close together, with nearly uniform spacing. Researchers described them as the strongest trackway evidence, yet that some raptor-like dinosaurs move together. But moving together does not mean learning together. The real mystery begins after one animal discovers something useful. Does the behavior disappear with that animal, or can it survive in another? To answer, raptors would need to pass 3 tests: repeated contact, social learning, and something far harder to demonstrate, teaching. The exact species that made the Chinese tracks is unknown. The footprints belong to a large member of the Deinonychus group, the branch that includes familiar raptor-like dinosaurs. And the tracks reveal an immediate limit. The 6 trackways are similar in size. They do not show an adult leading juveniles. They do not reveal a family, a hunting team, or a teacher. The association may have lasted much longer, but the footprints themselves preserve only one shared crossing. So the tracks support contact. They do not show information moving between animals. A second clue comes from a different raptor-like dinosaur in North America, Deinonychus. Researchers compared carbon isotopes in smaller and larger Deinonychus teeth. The results suggest that younger and older animals probably relied on different food sources. The authors argued that this weighs against the popular image of a tightly organized, wolf-like hunting pack. That does not prove Deinonychus lived alone. Diet cannot reveal every social relationship. Younger and older animals could still have met near water, carcasses, nesting areas, or seasonal gathering places. But the contradiction matters. Some raptor-like dinosaurs may have moved together without living in stable family groups. That would make repeated learning opportunities less certain. Contact is the first test. Regular contact between experienced adults and young learners remains unproven. Now imagine that one raptor discovers how to open a tough food item. A second animal rushes closer only because feeding activity has begun. That is social facilitation. Its behavior was triggered by another animal, but it did not learn a technique. Later, the observer investigates the same object or location because its attention was drawn there. That is stimulus enhancement. If it reaches the same result through a different movement, it may have copied the goal rather than the action. That is emulation. If it reproduces important parts of the movement it watched, we approach imitation. 4 different processes can therefore produce behavior that looks similar from a distance. One animal may have copied a sequence. Another may only have learned where to look. From a fossil, those outcomes could appear identical or leave no trace at all. The second test requires more than animals gathering in one place. Observation must alter what another animal later does. Could raptors remain together long enough for that to happen? Some of the clearest evidence for sustained nest attendance comes from other bird-like theropods. An oviraptorid was preserved, positioned over its eggs in a brooding posture. Troodontid nests and egg clutches also preserve evidence of reproduction centered on a nest. These fossils support adult attendance and parental investment before hatching. They do not show an adult instructing hatched young. They therefore establish a possible setting for continued parental behavior, not evidence of a lesson. Teaching has a stricter scientific meaning. First, an experienced animal must change its normal behavior when an inexperienced learner is present. Second, that change must impose some cost, delay, or lack of immediate benefit on the experienced animal. Third, the learner must acquire the behavior faster, more efficiently, or more successfully than it otherwise would. For a raptor, that might mean repeating an action, slowing it down, tolerating a juvenile near valuable food, or leaving an object available for practice. Watching alone is not enough. The experienced animal must behave differently in the learner's presence. Group movement is not automatically teaching. Parental care is not automatically teaching. And an adult performing a useful action, where a juvenile can see, it is still not automatically teaching. This third test is where the fossil record becomes almost silent. A track can preserve movement. A nest can preserve proximity. Neither normally preserves why one animal behaved differently. Wild meerkats show what stronger evidence looks like. Helpers adjust the difficulty of prey they give pups as the pups become more capable. They spend time monitoring practice, and the pups improve. The evidence lies in repeated changes to the helper's behavior, not simply in adults and young being close together. Living birds show why the remaining distinctions matter. Young new Caledonian crows can develop basic tool-oriented behavior without watching an adult. But juveniles that received demonstrations from a human foster parent handled and inserted twigs more often than birds without those demonstrations. Social information influenced attention and practice, while inherited tendencies and individual learning still played important roles. A behavior can therefore be socially influenced without being copied perfectly. A second example comes from wild sulphur-crested cockatoos. A complex technique for opening household trash bins spread from 3 Sydney suburbs to 44. Direct observations also revealed individual styles and local differences. Researchers describe this as animal culture, a group-level behavior maintained partly through social transmission. Here, culture means socially learned behavior, not human civilization, language, or moral responsibility. The cockatoos did not need formal instructors. Individuals could watch, attempt, fail, adjust, and learn from what happened around them. A raptor tradition would not require a prehistoric classroom. It would require repeated contact, attention, memory, and enough tolerance for learners to remain near successful individuals. Passing down a behavior is still not the same as cumulative culture. In one experiment, homing pigeons solved the same navigation problem in replacement chains. An experienced bird was repeatedly paired with a newcomer and later replaced. Across 5 experimental generations, the routes became more efficient. Information survived the replacement of individuals, and later pairs improved on the routes of earlier pairs. That gives us 3 separate levels. An animal may learn socially without creating a lasting tradition. A tradition may spread without deliberate teaching. And a tradition may persist without accumulating improvements. The earlier dinosaur Stone Age question depended on all 3. The available evidence does not show that raptors reached them. A convincing case would require a pattern that simpler explanations could not easily produce. Not one group of footprints. Not one adult over a nest. Not one unusual object beside a skeleton. A stronger case might combine repeated social contact, clear association between different age groups, and a distinctive behavior recurring in the same form across individuals or generations. But the behaviors most likely to spread socially may be among the least likely to fossilize. Calls disappear. Roots vanish. Wood, leaves, and feeding movements rarely survive. Fossils may preserve animals standing together while losing the behavioral change that followed. So did raptors pass down knowledge? The honest answer has several levels. Occasional group movement is directly supported for some raptor-like trackmakers. Learning from others is biologically plausible, but no fossil demonstrates it. Deliberate teaching and traditions passing between generations remain possible, not established. Cumulative culture is unsupported. The mystery is no longer whether a single raptor could have been clever. It is whether cleverness could ever become shared. To see why shared knowledge matters for a dinosaur stone age, watch the related documentary on screen now.